Very much, Amanda. So I'm glad to be here this evening. I'm really glad to be here. And yeah, I'll be talking about myself. It's really hard to talk about oneself, to be honest. But I'll try. So, like Amanda said, she's giving all the wonderful aspect of me. But I suppose one of the things that often amaze me about the human mind is how we are various things at various times, you know. But I was born and raised in Lagos, Nigeria, to one of the first feminists that I met, my mom and my dad. I was born and raised a Catholic, you know, and I suppose one of the things that I remember growing up is how hardworking my mother is. My mom we get up every morning by 6 a.m. By the time the kids wake up by 6 a.m., she's out of the house already. She's left. And you don't see her until maybe about 12 midnight. She was that hardworking woman that you see. You learn from her she doesn't just talk the talk, she walks the talk. That's the woman that raised me. But it's also for me very, one of the things she did inculcate into all of her children is the importance of hard work, the importance of integrity, for you to always put your best self in everything that you do. And that is one of the things I took from my parents. But it is also for me very interesting because the part of Lagos that I was born and raised is not the affluent part of Lagos. But despite the lack, there was always love and laughter. There was a lot of joke going on in the house. So for me, I was raised a happy child, if I might say so. Despite all of the lack, I was really raised a happy child. And one of the culture that we have in Nigeria is the culture of education. For every Nigerian family, education is very important. Even when you have parents that are uneducated, education is very important. And for my mom, it was extra important that the girl child be educated, because she always tell you that for you to be able to stand and stand tall, you must have education as a girl, especially in certain kind of culture. So for my family, education was very important, but we also had this culture of education growing up in Nigeria. But one of the things that stood out about my mom, no matter how tired she was, every single day we had to pray before we go to bed. That was one of the things she taught us, the importance of God in our life. So being able to understand the Bible, being able to understand what humanity is, how to treat other human beings, was one of the things she put into her kids, And that motto of do unto others what you wish for them to do unto you. Those are some of the things that I learned from my mom and my dad as well. But coming to Ireland, when I first came to Ireland, I think one of the shock that I got coming to Europe is understanding that I am Black. I did not know I was Black until I came to Europe. So when I came to Europe, I realized I was Black because these are some of the things we just don't talk about those kind of things in Nigeria. Even, I mean, they were Europeans. I was raised, my Holy Communion, my baptism, my confirmation, they were all done by Irish priests. But we don't talk about white and Black per se growing up. So it was a shock for me when I came to Europe to realize that I am Black. So that was one of the first things, and that my Blackness is a barrier. And when I came to Ireland, one of the things that was happening at the time, thankfully the policy has changed since then, was the fact that you going to third level education is dependent on your immigration status. So without the right kind of immigration status, you cannot avail of third level education. But I also grew up in an environment where I am told that nothing should stop you. The only thing that stops you is you. And that is how I was raised. That if you can't do it, is because you've decided you can't do it. And that is who I've always been. So when I came into Ireland and I learned that, okay, if you don't have the right kind of immigration status, you can't go to third level education. Despite that, I was applying to third level education anyway. And my friends thought I was crazy because everybody know you are not allowed to apply to third level education, but I was applying anyway. And eventually I did find one that sent me an invitation letter for me to come and do English test. And I went and I did the English test. And 4 days later, I got another letter saying, I've been given admission. And I was excited when I got that admission because everybody said, you're not. And then when I got the admission, my point of highlighting this story is that sometimes when something is very important to you, you hear all of the negatives. Sometimes those negatives are coming from people that actually love you. Because if somebody in the street is telling you the negative, you wouldn't be bothered. But when those negative are coming from your friends, your family, it begins to sink in. So, when I got the admission, I was excited. I shared the good news with my friends, and they were asking me, yeah, but even if they've given to you, maybe they don't know you don't have the right papers. It's better you let them know at this early stage that you don't have the right papers, you're not allowed to go to college, because you'll be more devastated if maybe 6 months down the line they find out you don't have the right immigration status and you're asked to leave the college. So one thing I did almost immediately, I went back to the college, went to the and then when I went back to the college, I went with my daughter. She's in the university now, but at the time she was only 8 months old. I went to the college with my daughter, and I went to the course director. And then I told her, I said, I came back, I came to speak to you. She said, okay, that's fine. What is it about? I said, I came to tell you that I don't have the right immigration status to come to college. She said, okay. And then she asked me an important question. She said, but do you want to come to college? I said, more than you can even begin to imagine. She said, okay, you want to come to college, I'm giving you the opportunity to come to college. And then I said also to her, I said, I also saw on the website that the fee is 3,000 per annum. She said, yes. I said, I don't have that kind of money. And then she asked me again, how much do you have? I said, I have 400 euros. So you see the difference between 3,000 euros and 400 euros. And then I said to her, I have only 400 euros. She said, okay, you will deposit the 400 euros. And then she asked me something. She said, is your child an Irish citizen? I said, yes. I don't know what she did, but eventually my school fees went from 3,000 euros to 960 euros. And then I deposited the 400 euros, and every month I pay 100 euro. Every month I pay 100 euro. And that's how my third level education started in Ireland. And that was me doing a HND. And of course, some days, because I was alone with the child, no family, no support network at all. While everybody were submitting typed assignments, mine assignment was handwritten because I had no computer, I had no access to computer, nothing. So every assignment I was handwritten, and she had to speak to the other lecturers to accept my handwritten assignments. So you can imagine when you make a mistake, that paper, you start all over again. So handwritten assignments I was doing at the time. But all of this did not deter me, because I was really excited. For me, it's a great opportunity, and I told myself, this opportunity, you need to grab it, you need to run with it. And that is exactly what I did. And before I was finishing my HND, she had already called me to her office and was asking me, what is your plan after this? I said, I'm not sure, but I really want to go further in my education. And she linked me up with the guardian counselor, and I did go on to do my BSc and doing my master's later on and finishing all of that. It wasn't an easy part, because having a child by myself and in a country, in a foreign land, with no support network, it was really hard. But for me, I was not looking at the difficulty. I focused on the opportunity. I was just seeing the opportunity rather than looking at all of the difficulty of raising the child, handwritten assignments. Yes, all of those things were there, but I kept my eyes on the goal. This is a great opportunity. I want to go to school. I want to be educated. And God has given me this chance and I'm taking it. And that was all I focused on. But all of that happened. And then a different phase of my life started when I got married. One of the things about the culture where I'm coming from is how the role women are given, even, from birth. The fact that you come out a girl child, you're already assigned certain roles. And one of the things that you learn is that in marriage, it is your responsibility to keep the marriage as a woman. If the marriage fails, it's because you failed. And this is what we are told. And this is what a lot of us grew up with. And one of the danger of that kind of mindset is that even when abuse is happening, you can't see the abuse. You only focus on the fact that you must keep this marriage at all costs. You must do whatever it takes to keep the marriage. And the reality is that this has caused the life of women who, because of certain kind of culture, certain kind of orientation, remain in abusive situations because they've been told that it's their role, it's their job. And again, the stigma, because it is societal stigma, but it's also the self-inflicted stigma. So all of this I was grappling with at a particular point in time. And even though I knew in my heart after my master's degree that I wanted to go further, but the fact that the person I was married to at the time said, no, you're not going to, no more education, no more. It was, I felt it was, he was the man of the house, so whatever he says is what goes. Because that's how I've been raised. You're told that you must listen to your husband. It's almost as if you don't exist anymore. So at that particular point in time, I kind of lost myself, to be honest. I lost myself trying to live up to what society expected of me, what the culture expected of me, what every other person expected of me. The only person I was never considering is me. What do I want for me? What do I want for me was no longer part of anything. It was always about what every other person wants and what every other person expects. And a lot of things happened during that period. Things that I'm not going to go into all of those, but the major thing is that at that particular point in time in my life, I became lost completely. I couldn't recognize me anymore. I couldn't recognize the vibrant, go-getting individual that I have always been. I was just living for somebody else and living for the kids and all of that. But one thing happened that made me begin to question everything. And I never forget what he said to me one day when he said, you are already at the apex of your life. You can't go further. You can't be anything more than what you are right now. And then I had to ask myself, is it true that I can't be anything more than what I am? And what was I at that time? I was just a housewife. Because even with the master's degree, I was told, you need to take care of the home, take care of the kids and do that and do that. And when he said to me that you are already where you should be, you can't be anything more. That thing haunted me for a very, very long time. And one of the things I didn't do then was I always bottle everything in. I kept everything in. You don't wash your dirty linen outside. You have to, you don't talk about your family outside and all of that. So I kept a lot of things inside until I met a friend that I spoke to one day. And then the friend said to me, it's very simple. I said, no, it's not simple. He said, yes, it is very simple. It's either he's right and you're wrong, or you are right and he's wrong. What is it going to be? And then I realized, yeah, he's right. It's true. And then in hiding, to write my application to do my PhD, I actually had to hide to write it. I didn't use, it meant I didn't even use my address. I had to use a friend's address because I didn't want problems in the home. I didn't want him to find out I'm applying for a PhD. I didn't want issues at home, So, and I didn't know if I was going to get the PhD because at this point I had lost myself completely, no confidence at all. No faith in my own ability to do anything anymore. So yes, I did apply, but am I going to get it? I don't even know. But I did get it. Yeah, I did get the admission to come and do a PhD. As a matter of fact, my supervisor was very excited about the topic when I had gone through. And then, of course, I had to eventually talk about the admission at home, which is a story for another day. But one of the things that the PhD did for me, I always say that the PhD saved my life. Not because I can't do without the PhD, no. But I used the fact the PhD meant I slowly but gradually I found me again. I began to do the things I really enjoy to do, researching things, being interested. I had always had this curious mind. The more I know, the more I want to know. But in those years that I was married, I became somebody else I did not recognize, to be honest. So the PhD saved my life because I began to find me. And the more I found me, the more I was looking for me, the more I wanted more, more, more. And it kind of opened my eyes and I began to network again. All of the things that I really enjoy doing, networking, meeting with people, exchanging knowledge, all of the things I really enjoy doing. I started doing them again. During those short periods I'll be in the university environment, I really was me. By the time I get home, I become this shrink individual again. But those hours that I'll be in the university, and then one day I realized that I can't continue like this. Because again, all of those things were happening. I was not telling my family anything. I did not tell them anything I'm going through. Whenever they ask me, I'll say everything is fine. Everything is fine. Because the shame, how am I going to tell them that the marriage is failing, that that it was a mistake? So I kept saying everything is fine, whereas nothing was fine. But one day I realized I just woke up and there was no plan, there was nothing. I just woke up one day and I realized I'm done. I'm just done. I need to be me. And that was how I just walked out of took my kids, walked out of the home, walked out of the marriage, and I became homeless. Yeah, I became homeless, but even in the homeless, there were a lot of challenges. But one of the things I did, I applied for a job, got a job, was juggling the job, juggling a PhD, networking with people, volunteering in the community, doing all of the things I really, really enjoy doing. And little step by step, I began to really get into the community, get into the roles that I really enjoy. But one of the great things that happened to me is meeting my former mentor, Dr. Nusha Yonkova. She's a Bulgarian woman. And when I came into the role, after a few months, she actually said to me, because the point of bringing Nusha into it is the importance of mentors in your life. Sometimes the mentors ask us, they take us on board. Sometimes we might be the one to go out to look for these mentors. After a few months, she said to me, you know what, I don't want to be your manager. I want to mentor you. And that's one of the best things that happened to me career-wise. Because with the mentoring of somebody like Nusha opened doors to me, opened my eyes to a lot of things I wouldn't have thought about. And she made herself available but more importantly, I was willing to learn. I always want to learn. My father always say, you stop learning The only time you stop learning is when you go 6 feet down. That's when learning stops for you. But other than that, there is always something to learn. And that's the kind of, so having Nusha as a mentor was amazing for my career. But eventually I had other mentors, but it started with Dr. Nusha Yunkova. And I learned a lot from her. But it wasn't easy because remember, at this point, I'm a single mom doing a PhD, keeping a job with a special need child. So a lot of times, and sometimes people tell me now, oh, Jennifer, your life is amazing. I really want to be with you, be like you. I say, be careful what you wish for. When you say you want to be like me, be really careful what you wish for. Because most of the days, there are days that, once the kids are in bed, I lie down and I have a good cry. I'm being very honest. I cry because sometimes it was really overwhelming. And if I need to cry, I cry. But one of the things I did for myself when I got a different house and moved in with the kids, I went into the school, I printed out things that I put all over. First of all, the picture of an eagle. I picked an eagle because it's one of those animals that goes through the storm. It doesn't go around the storm, it goes through the storm. So for me, the eagle was very symbolic. But aside from the eagle, I wrote a lot of things that I post in my bedroom, in the bathroom. Jennifer, you are amazing. Jennifer, you can do this. Dr. Jennifer Okeke. I was still a student then, but I had Dr. Jennifer Okeke sticking in my bedrooms and all of that. You are stronger than this. You're amazing. I had all of this all over the house. My friends, they call me crazy, but crazy is good sometimes. I had all of this all over because I needed to be able to remind myself how far I have come, but more importantly, where I am going. Sometimes we are lucky we have friends and families around us that encourages us. Sometimes we are not so lucky. We need to encourage ourselves. And I was raised a Catholic girl, so I am a spiritual person. I pray all the time. Yeah, sometimes I'm talking to God like the way I'm talking to you like this. I'll just be talking. But I never put that in people's face. I always tell people, do you, find you, what works for you. For me, what worked for me was talking to God because some days I am overwhelmed, like overwhelmed. My kids will ask me, what is for dinner? I say, I don't know because I really don't know. I can't think anymore. I'm overloaded. And for me, that was my reality. But when I joined, through Nusha, I joined the National Women Council that I'm currently the chairperson. I joined just as a board member. Nusha put my name forward. She asked me to go forward. I said, are you sure? She said, yeah, go forward. I joined, I ran, I was elected, I got on the board. I served on the board for 2 years. By the time the next election was coming up, I called Nusha again because, she's my mentor. She's still there. Things come up even now, and I'll call her to say, oh, Nusha, I was thinking of this. What do you think? Because we need those kind of positive voices around us. And one of the things I did very early on for myself, because again, when I left my marriage, people saw me as bad influence to their own marriage because, a lot of people wouldn't want to associate with me because my marriage is broken. It's bad luck for married women to be associating with women who couldn't keep their home. So, I lost a lot of friends. And for me, that was all right too. I mean, that was all right because at that point, it wasn't about pleasing anybody anymore. I was done with all of that. It was about me, finding me, the authentic, real me. So, and those kind of negative voices, because sometimes even the ones that love you, they'll be the negative voice in your life. So one of the things I do, any negative voice, I keep you very far. I don't fight you. I don't quarrel with you. I just love you from afar. And it means sometimes you're calling my phone, I'm not picking it up. I let it ring out. An hour later, I'll send you a text message to say, sorry, I missed your call. I've just been very busy. I'll call you at the weekend. I just love you from very far. So negative voices very early on, I cut them off from around me. I consciously and intentionally selected people that speak life into me, people that speak positivity into me. And some of them are those kind of women, and they were all women. I surrounded myself with strong, positive women. And some of them are the women, the ones that when I am so overwhelmed, I call them, they pray with me, they pray for me. And some of them are the ones that when I want to make a decision career-wise, I call them and say, oh, Nusha, what do you think about this? You say, oh, do this and do that. I think this and I think that. People that speak positivity into me, those are very important. I surrounded myself with those kind of women. So by the time it was coming up to election again, I said, look, should I run as, she said, go for vice chair. I said, vice chair. Again, the fear comes in. We must learn to deal with the fear. But one thing I've learned is that if I want to make a decision now and I'm not having butterflies in my stomach, the fear is not there. I tell myself it's not worth it. The fear must be there for it to be big enough. Anything I want to go for now and I'm not nervous about it, I tell myself, no, this thing is not worth it. It's not big enough. That is how far I've come from that woman that had no confidence. Marriage took the confidence completely, it just robbed me of me to this individual now. And I tell young girls these days, sometimes when they go, you see smart, intelligent girls, but they begin to second guess themselves. And I tell them, go for it. So that is one of the things, those kind of mentors, those kind of positive people, keeping them around us are very important because they really helped my life. And I still have those women around me. And by the way, the lady, my course director, the first woman that gave me the opportunity to do that, to come into, to do my HND. By the time I was graduating for my PhD, I went back to look for her. Because if she had not given me the opportunity, I don't know which path my life would have gone. But because even against the policy of the state, she actually went against the policy because I wasn't supposed to be there. But she gave me the opportunity. I went back to look for her. She was retired and everything. But I found her and I got a seat for her. The day I was graduating, she was sitting there. It's because it was my own way of saying thank you. Thank you for opening the doors that were closed to me. That was the only way I could say thank you. And that's why these days, today I am the chair of the National Women's Council. It's an organization that has been in existence for over 50 years in Ireland. It's the umbrella organization for women in Ireland. And I am the first woman that is not a white native Irish woman to be the chair of the National Women's Council. And when I came to run, when I made the decision to run for the chair, I had butterflies in my stomach. I was afraid. I had butterflies in my stomach. Is the Irish women ready to vote somebody that is not a white? Not only am I not a white woman, I'm not even an Irish, a native Irish woman. But I did run it despite the fear. And that is what I say to young girls these days. I say, do it despite the fear. Two things can happen. Even if you fail, I say something, I say, I can live with failing. I can't live with regrets. For me, it's okay to go and fail. And then I know that I went and I failed. What I can't live with is years down the line thinking, maybe I should have, what if I have, no, that I can't deal with. I can deal with the failure. I can't deal with thinking about maybe. And the fact that I became the chair, a lot of organizations, ethnic minority women began to, they came forward now to join. They want to be part of the National Women's Council. And that was what I was hoping to be a role model for all of those girls that are thinking, is there a space for us there? And young girls like my daughter's mates, the next generation, I tell them, you have no excuse. If I can come from Africa against all the odds and I get here, I say, you stop giving yourself excuses. Is the life perfect now? No, it's not. I have a special needs child I'm taking care of all by myself. I'm still keeping a job, doing my role as the tomorrow. I mean, by 10 a.m. tomorrow morning, I'll be in Budapest. So I'm still doing all of those things and try to encourage the next generation. But hey, I love my life. That's the reality. I do love my life. You know, I know it's going to get better, but right now I love my life. And if I look back to where I'm coming from to where I am today, I tell myself, Jennifer, well done. Jennifer, be proud of yourself. Well done. So I suppose one of the things why I sometimes, because sometimes you hear, oh, don't talk about all the domestic abuse that happened. I said, no. It needs to be spoken about because women are suffering and keeping all of this pain inside. They need to know that there is no shame in talking about it. Tomorrow, I don't know who my story will help. It might encourage another woman to know that they can do it. They are able to do it. Because I was homeless, I came out from the marriage. When I came out, I didn't know where I was going. I became homeless with 3 children, including one special need child. But I realized that if I don't come out, I need to be alive to raise these children. I wasn't living anymore. I need to come out and be alive. And when I graduated, my kids were very proud. my my kids were very proud. My mom was very proud. She was calling me on the video. Let me see you. Let me see how you're dressed. Is your hair properly done? Is your makeup properly done? She was calling me in Africa on my graduation day. Switch to video. Let me see you. So it's been a journey. And I am still on that journey. And I am still learning and growing. But I think one of the things I am proud of myself today is the fact that the way Dr. Nusha held the door open for me, I can hold the door open for the ones that are coming behind me. I think for me, that would be one of my greatest achievements for women to come, younger women to come years from now and say, oh, Jennifer was the one that, for me, that would be the greatest achievement. So that is just me in a nutshell. and I'm happy to answer any question. I mean, any question. It's a safe space here, so I'm happy to answer any question. Yeah. Thank you very much for listening to me.
Thank you, Jennifer. Well, I'm so privileged actually to have this powerhouse of a lady here. And I just know from meeting her in different venues around here. We've been to a couple of meetings together, and seeing her in action here in Ireland, and she's something else. I'm so moved actually and so enriched from working with Jennifer and knowing her. And she's got quite a few books in there. I know today you didn't touch on many of them, but I think as well, when you see someone who's willing to humbly, even an opportunity for her, I know she handed over to another young girl that was graduated and working hard. And I think that's for me the true kind of inspiration, that it's not just all about you, but also helping someone, encouraging someone, and then coming together and really supporting you. So you are amazing. And I would love to open the floor. Ladies, if anybody has any questions for Jennifer, please raise your hands or unmute yourself.
Yeah.
Rita.
Okay. Hello. Hi, Jennifer. So nice to see you. And it's so wonderful to listen to you. I mean, I feel this is all what we want to teach in Women Federation. Get these young people to listen to Jennifer. No, we have a snowstorm here in Sweden right now, in the southern Sweden. So my internet went out several times, and I said, no, because I didn't want to miss anything. But is really inspiring, and your incredible determination, but also your heart, you know, it's such an inspiration. And I don't know. You said you talk to God
Yes.
all the time. Is that how you're able to survive? Because it was so difficult situations. Did you feel that God is with you?
To be honest, like I said, when I left the marriage, I lost a lot of friends, to be honest. And most of the time, I just went back to the original me that was raised in God, with God and all of that. So sometimes I will have a terrible day. I come back from work and all of that. By the time the children are in bed, now, don't call me crazy, but I was like, oh my God, God, did you see what happened today in the office? I'm like in my bedroom talking to God that way. And sometimes my daughter comes, Mom, are you on the phone? I said, no, I'm just talking to Jesus. Go to bed, baby. And she they got used to me talking to Jesus. I just said, I know, I'm just talking to Jesus. And that way I feel relief in my, it was just something I was doing at that time, because I just feel that there is nobody there to talk to. I'm talking to Jesus, and I just feel that he hears me, and strangely, sometimes things just, I might find myself in a very difficult situation and things just resolve themselves. So just the way I'm talking to you now, just be talking in my bedroom like, oh my God, Jesus, it was really terrible today. And I really am so angry right now. So I do that a lot, and it kind of calmed my spirit. And that is why when I talk to people, I said, find what works for you. I don't put my own spirituality in anybody's face. It's just, this is who I am. Find what works for you. Ask, go deep inside and find what works for you. What you do that you find peace. For me, talking to God gives me that kind of peace, that I've spoken to a power that is greater than myself, that understands everything I'm going through. And that kind of gives me the peace. And that is where I got that inspiration to go and print image of the eagle and put eagle, eagle, the image of eagle was every room in my house, the landing, the bathroom, my bedroom, the kids' room. You'll see picture of the eagle everywhere. And all of those things. Dr. Jennifer, you are amazing. You can do this. You are the smartest. It was a bit crazy, but it worked for me at that time.
But I feel, doesn't it a lot also go back to your parents and your mother and your father, and the confidence that you have, also a lot go back to them, would you say?
Yes, especially my mom. My mom she's one of those women that you never hear her complain, even as tough as it is. And sometimes we didn't grow up with a lot. We can see that it's very tough, but she was a really hardworking woman. She does, she's those kind of women that doesn't get tired. Something like Amanda. If it's these days, you think that maybe she's hyper. So I did see my mom. She taught by example. I saw how hardworking she is, how she hardly complains about things. She just takes it in her stride. And one of the things she also say, if something is not working, change it. If you can't change it, then get on with it. So that was the mentality I always apply to things. Yeah.
Thank you, Jennifer.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Britta. Also, I know that you are a mentor for, so many young girls that have found themselves in very difficult situations here, where you are really at your lowest and most vulnerable. And then to meet someone and to have someone like you to talk to, or then to pass that mentoring on. And you've seen, how have you seen these girls?
Yeah, especially for the girls that are from migrant communities, whether they are coming from Africa, but outside of Europe, because the ones coming from Europe, their ways of thinking is slightly different. But a lot of girls that has been raised, even when they were born, they are born here, but they are raised like by parents like myself that was born and raised different in a different place. You see sometimes the conflicting of the self and identity. What should they be doing? Should they follow what they have learned in Europe, which is who they are, or should they be following what their parents are teaching them inside the house? So sometimes you find that conflict going on. And I always say to them, take the best of the two worlds. The two world can exist. Take the best of the two world. And I'll give you an example. I went recently to do a training for young girls between the age of 18 and 25 to create awareness on gender-based violence, what violence means. Because eventually these girls are going to be, having partners, going into marriages or going into relationship, so they need to be aware. So, and I was surprised that after that training, their mothers were there. So it's the mothers group that invited me to come and speak to the girls. So while I was speaking to the girls, and I was saying to them, if you're speaking to your mom and your mom is not getting it, or your mom is telling you to be patient, it's your job as the woman to keep the relationship, I said, then you stop talking to your mom and talk to somebody else. And their moms were there, and I was saying that. But I was surprised after the session, the number of those young girls that came to me, oh, can I get your number? I need to call you later about something. Are you on LinkedIn? Can I link up with you? I said, yes. And, the kind of things that were coming out from those girls, it's almost that vicious circle beginning to manifest itself. So I had to go back to the organization to tell the women that I need to come and speak to the mothers. And they gave me the platform. And then I went to speak to the mothers and I was telling them, look, after the session, a lot of your daughters are coming. If you are one of those mothers that is telling your daughter to stay in an abusive relationship and be patient, I say, if you don't bring her out, then you better be prepared to bury your child. And then ask yourself, do you want to bury your child? I said, so I'm a mother. I was raised elsewhere and I am raising a daughter. So when I speak to you as mothers, I'm speaking to you from a place of knowing, not from a place of ignorance. I say you can't be raising your daughters the way we were raised when we are told that it's our responsibility. It takes two to tango. So these kind of things, you see that coming up with young girls. And this is where I step in to tell them that, no, you're in Europe, it's different. But more importantly, nobody should abuse you. Nobody has the right to abuse you. Nobody. So yeah.
All right, ladies, is there anyone else here who'd like to ask Jennifer? Because the time has flown and we only have 10 minutes left.
Please feel free to ask any question.
I have another one then. because you are actually dealing with very difficult issues, like trafficking, women that are abused, they are beaten up and so forth. And then you were talking about how, like, you try to be around positive women around you. And so how do you deal with this heavy load, of all these difficult stories from the women that you are in contact with? I mean, all this pain.
It's a very interesting question you asked. I was at a conference, a very big conference on Friday and Saturday where I was invited to speak. And then I told them I wanted to tell them a story of how I became my mother. You know how we never want to become our mothers, but we end up becoming our mothers anyway. When I was growing, one of the things, my mom had a restaurant, and opposite her restaurant was the brothel. And a lot of these girls come in to buy food from my mom. They call her big auntie and all of that. But, I was early teens, but I saw how kind my mother was to a lot of these young girls. And sometimes they'll cry. I see them crying. I don't know why they are crying. I see my mom trying to comfort them. But one of those days, I asked my mom, after one of the ladies had left, I asked her, what is wrong with the Ashawo auntie? Now, at that time, I did not understand what Ashawo was, but it was a very derogatory name used to describe women in brothel, women in the, in prostitution and all that. But my mom was very angry that I called the girl Ashawo. But it was what I saw everybody calling them, But one of the things I learned from my mom that day was two things. Never judge people, one. Be mindful of language, too. Because she said that they are there does not mean they want to be there. But this was, when I was in my teens. So eventually, I found myself supporting women in the sex trade, women who have been trafficked. And then I remembered what I had learned from my mother. And it wasn't easy at the very beginning interviewing women. To be honest, I was really traumatized. I'm being very honest. The first, second interview, I was really traumatized. I couldn't continue with the interviews. But then again, after counseling, because luckily for me, one of my supervisors, she's a psychotherapist and a very good one at that. After speaking with her and, talking about all of this anger inside of me about the things I have heard, I realized that as difficult as the topic is, as difficult as the issue is, somebody needs to talk about it. And that is what I said to them at that conference on Friday, just this Friday past. I said, we must educate our young girls, but more importantly, we must also educate our young men that a woman's body is not for sale. Because there is this myth that, women that are in prostitution love to be in prostitution. It's not true. There might be the small percentage, the 5%, 6%, that, in the place of opportunities, they still choose to become a sex worker. But the majority of women did not choose that because they wanted to. So for me, over time, it became easier. At the very beginning, it was really hard to digest all of that. And I was really traumatized because I'll lie down, I can't sleep. I just hear their voices in my head and all of that. So it was really traumatizing at the beginning. But over time, it became easier. But I suppose one of the things for me was looking at the good I am going to do, bringing the light, bringing something in the darkness into light. That is bringing out the women's story. Because one of the questions I asked them at the end of the interview is that, why did you choose to tell me? And almost all of the women, almost all of them said the same thing. So that if my story will help the next girl for what happened to me not to happen to them or happen to her, then it is worth me talking to you. So, and that is where I focus on the positive. I focus on the girl that will understand that the sex trade is not as glamorous as they present it to be. I focus on the one that might be able to escape and be able to live a normal life as normal as it can be. I try to focus on the positive as much as I know the horrors of the trade, but I try to focus on the positive because I've seen women that exited, they've gone on to become nurses, and a couple of them have stayed in touch with me over the years. They've gone on to, one of them, I met her in the university. She was the one that even saw me and came to me to say, so I try to focus on the positive all the time and never forget that as long as it helps the one girl child, I'm not going to save the world. It's just that one. I always focus on that one. For me, that's what keeps me going. I just need to remember that one.
Thank you, Jennifer.
No problem, Rita.
So is there anybody else there? Hello, Almira, would you like to ask a question?
Hello.
Hi.
Just to congratulate you, Jennifer. Thank you very much for this wonderful evening. for this wonderful testimony.
Thank
And
you.
then I saw you in Tirana, but I couldn't meet you. So just to say thank you, because it's really great the work you are doing. I'm so inspired and I am so happy.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Amira.
Yeah.
Check the chat, see if there is any question.
Okay.
And please feel free to ask any question. Like I said, it's a safe space here, and I'm happy to address any question, whether it's the professional or the personal.
You cannot unmute yourselves.
No, that was before, Amanda, in the beginning.
Okay. Aha.
They can all unmute themselves.
Yes. Okay. Right.
Anyway, Jennifer, amazing, as always. I loved your story. Gosh, the challenges that you went through, it's incredible. The perseverance and the tenacity that you had, but also the mentors that you had on the journey.
Yeah.
I think it is so important that you mentioned that, these women that are strong, but at the same time sharing their, their strength with someone who needs it. I thought it was amazing, really. Yeah, I was very felt quite happy when you were telling your mother and she wanted to see you. So you're kind of sharing your blessings with her. Actually, maybe she never had those opportunities.
No, she never did. She didn't go to school at all. But she was very insistent, especially for myself and my kid sister, who, by the way, she's a mental health nurse in Toronto. So she always said, even if the boys don't go to school, the girls must be educated.
Absolutely, yeah.
So yeah. And I speak to her almost every day. Sometimes I speak to her every day. I'm not exaggerating. The woman calls me every single day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
How about like men figures in your life? Like father, brothers, or uncles. I mean, of course, you had a bad experience yourself, but
Yeah, the thing is that, to be honest, that's why I touched on the stigma, because society puts stigma on us, but we also put stigma on ourselves. And again, when I was going through all of this, I was too ashamed to tell my family that the marriage is a mess, basically, and it was one of my friends. She has moved from Ireland to Manchester now. She was actually the one that I don't know how she got my family's contacts from my phone, and she was the one that called my family to tell my family what was going on in my life. And my brothers were mad. They were furious. Like you're going through all of this and you chose not to tell anybody. And but I was just ashamed. I was just ashamed because being the first girl in the family, there is a lot of the African culture puts certain roles on certain children within the family. Being the first girl in the family, there are certain things they look upon you that you must set the right example, you must do this, you need to do that. So I was just so ashamed of myself to tell them that the marriage failed. And because of that, I kept quiet. And, he took advantage of this a lot. He really took advantage of this. So by the time my family eventually found out what was going on, my brothers were really very upset with me. But one of the things he did, because at first I was angry with my friend for telling my family, but it was a good thing my friend did for me, because what happened after that is that my brothers kept in touch with me. They will call from wherever they are. How are you? What is going on? And, especially the older ones, they kept pressuring me at that time. You need to leave. You need to leave, But still I stayed. And that is one of the things I've seen, maybe because of my own experience, it's easier for me in the work I do to be more patient with women that are going through forms of abuse, because sometimes it's not easy to make those calls, make those decisions. I tell you.
Yeah, sorry, interject. Just another question about Since you got empowered when you came to Ireland and you had the opportunity to get mentors who helped you in the education system and to get your qualifications, how do you feel about the women who are left at home, you know, like back in Nigeria? Is there any way that you can influence the leaders or community leaders to teach the women about their rights, and or is that very kind of culturally constrained and it's still very difficult for them to free themselves from that?
It is, and I'm going to be honest, it is very hard.
Mm.
And oftentimes you hear this woman has died, and sometimes they are very influential people that is in the public eyes, that the husband beat her to death, the husband burnt, these horror stories, we hear them every week coming out from home. But what I have done, one of myself and a friend that already has an NGO, sometimes she organizes this kind of online Zoom whereby women log in, and sometimes she organizes it in her house. She calls the meeting in her house where it's a safe space, and then she does this kind of Zoom call where I'm able to speak to women. But you see, the problem is that oftentimes some of them stay in that situation because they are not economically empowered. The man pays the house rent, the man brings money for the food, the man puts the clothing on her back. The man has the economic power. And that is why sometimes when we raise, we do, raise funds to try to give women to start small businesses.
Microcredits.
Yes.
Yeah.
We kind of raise funds, do those kind of charity fundraising. And then we give to women, not huge amounts, small money to start something. But it's amazing what that small thing does for women, their mental health. Because even if it's tomatoes they are selling on the street, it's now theirs. It's, the woman knows this tomato business is mine. I don't need to go get money for, if I want to buy underwears, I don't need to go ask him for money. If I want to go and buy sanitary pad, I don't need to ask him for every single. So a lot of women remain in that kind of difficult situation because of, okay. A lot of women remain in those kind of situations because of economic disempowerment. That's the problem,
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mitty. Mitty, were you trying to share something? A whiteboard?
No, I wasn't actually.
Okay.
No, it's just technology.
Something.
Somebody else was trying to share something.
Maybe, I don't know.
No, it's fine.
But actually, we have flown through that hour. And I know there's so many other stories that we haven't even spoken about. Jennifer's grandmothers. I think we need to invite her back and have her for another time, because I think you come from such a line of women, just incredible women. And anyway, we're lucky to have our elder sisters, mentors, women in our lives. And I think, this is one of the things to help us get through. And yeah,
it is very important. And I'll say, if you're in a position of power, you're in a position of privilege. It does, sometimes these young ones, they are very afraid to approach, to ask you to mentor them. Just like Dr. Nusha, I would never have, the old me would not have had the courage to go to her to say, I would like you to be my mentor. But the fact that she says, I want to mentor you, made all the difference in my life. So
it's also like a trust issue, because if you're in a community that's very close, people are afraid to kind of open up and say something, and then they feel they may talk to someone else and this and that, but confidential things.
Yeah, but
that's a barrier for them as well.
Yes, it is a barrier, but I say, even within my own community, a lot of, especially young girls, they come to me. A lot of them. And a lot of Irish girls come to me as well. Sometimes some of them is just via LinkedIn. They'll send me a message, please, I'd like to speak to you. I can work around your schedule. Are you available? And one of the things I'm very grateful to God, because not one single girl has approached me that I said, I am not available, I can't speak to you. Not one. Because I know the courage you must have taken her to approach me. I always put myself, the old me. I always remember the old me. So I think, yeah, I'm very proud that not one girl, not one younger woman has approached me and I said no. You know. So if you find yourself in a privileged position, in a position of power, in a position of leadership, try to mentor as much of them as you can. They do, the young ones do need we older ones to, play that role of mentor in their lives.
And
It is very
also, we
important.
should also not be scared to ask each other, because there's always peaks and troughs. And, that's one of the things that we really need to start asking for: a bit of support, a bit of help, instead of being the martyr or carrying it all by ourselves. Because it's amazing how people say yes and they're kind of happy to help you. So that's it's amazing, because Jennifer's helping me now, aren't you, Jennifer?
I'm glad to.
And they do say yes. So I think we've come to the end of our time, ladies. So I just want to thank everyone for coming again. And thank you, Jennifer, for taking the time and arranging with your children to be here. And
it's an honor and a privilege. And like I said to Miti, when I was coming to Albania, I didn't know what to expect, but Albania was amazing for me. And yeah, I want to remain part of this. Yeah.
We're not letting you go, don't worry.
We know where she lives.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks,
everyone.
Bye.
Have
Bye-bye.
a nice evening.
Bye.